Hi guys, this is Lakin Walls with my Intercultural Speech. I interviewed Molly Hall. Molly is a second semester freshman here at Campbellsville. She's from Ipswich, England, and she's majoring in physical education. She also plays on the women's soccer team. I met Molly in the spring semester through soccer. My first impression of Molly is that she's really tall, and I was obsessed with her accent. My entire team was really. We all wanted her to talk 24/7. Today, me and Molly are actually really good friends, and she's one of the sweetest people I know, and I'm really excited to tell you guys a little bit about her. Since Molly is a foreign exchange student, she's got to live in both England and America. This has allowed her to examine both cultures and get to know them very well. The close relationship between the United States and England has led to the development of many similar cultural features. However, there are still many cultural differences that can be examined as well. By examining language, customs, recreational activities of the American and British cultures, we can determine their similarities and differences. The first thought that comes to my mind when I think of culture is language. Both Americans and the British speak English, but the versions of English differ a little bit. Molly's initial reaction to the American accent is that we are loud, confident, and outspoken. Asked her if she had any trouble understanding us, and she said she didn't because she grew up watching American television, which allowed her to become accustomed to it. One difference between our versions of English is pronunciation. The letter Z, we say Z. In England, they pronounce it as Z. Also, the pronunciation of the letter R is different. When it's in the middle of a word or at the beginning of a word, it's pronounced the same. But when it's at the end of the word, the English drop it completely and don't pronounce it at all. Some example would be the word, we say other, they say other. We say clever, and they say clever. I found this information on a website called Fluent U. Another difference between the two versions of English is spelling. Americans use the ending IZE a lot, and the British use the ending ISE instead. Some examples are the words organize and realize. They're pronounced the same, it's just they're spelled differently at the end. For example, we spell realize REALIZE. They spell it REALISE. I found this in the article, What are the Differences Between American and British English, written by J. Morris. We also use the ending OR, and they prefer the ending OUR. This spelling difference can be found in the words color and flavor. An additional difference between the two versions of English is vocabulary. This is the biggest area of difference in our two versions of language, and it's the most confusing because there's no rules to it. The English version of chips is equivalent to our version of fries. The English version of crisps is equivalent to our version of chips. And the English version of biscuits is equivalent to our version of cookies or crackers. Another defining aspect of culture is a nation's traditions and customs. One example of a tradition or custom is holidays. Some similar holidays that we have are Halloween, Easter, Christmas, and New Year's. Some holidays that only the British have are Boxing Day, which is just the day after Christmas, and they don't have any school or work on this day. Another holiday they have that we don't have is Guy Fawkes Day. It's also known as Fireworks Day. This is actually Molly's favorite holiday. Another difference between our traditions and customs is greetings. They're very similar for the most part, but I guess you could say England is more proper. Typically, a typical greeting in England would be good morning or good afternoon with a handshake to a friend or a stranger. If it's a close family friend or something, they would, give them a hug or give them a kiss on the cheek. When Molly first came to America, our typical greeting of hey y'all, she had a difficult time understanding that one a little bit. Lastly, clothing is one of my topics I looked into with the traditions and customs. When I asked Molly about the main difference between the clothing, she said, Americans are a lot more casual than us. We tend to dress up more instead of just wearing shorts and a t-shirt. So some similar brands between the two countries are Nike and Adidas. One brand that they have that we don't is Jack Wells, and it's similar to our Hollister. Molly's favorite brand is Nike. I read on the article, The Real Difference Between New York and London Fashion by Noel, that London is a lot more experimental in fashion than America. They even make clothes that are technically unwearable, but they're really fun and inspiring, so they show them off anyways. Lastly, the most enjoyable feature of a country's culture to assess is recreation. The signature food and drink of England is fish and chips and tea. The signature food of America is less concrete. I'd say it's probably hamburgers or hot dogs. The main difference between American and British food is portion size. American's food's a whole lot bigger than the English, and our food's a lot more sugary. Molly's favorite American food is chicken tenders, and her favorite England food is fish and chips. I read in the article the difference between American culture and British culture, that Americans prefer fast food while the British prefer pub food. Another type of recreation I looked at is sports. Some sports that we have in both countries are soccer or football, tennis, swimming, and basketball. Some sports that we only have in the United States are football and NASCAR. Some sports that are only in England are cricket and netball. Netball is kind of like basketball, but players have to stay in zones and there's no backboard. They also have something called rounders, which is kind of a different version of baseball. The most popular sport in the United States is football, and the most popular sport in England is soccer. I got this info from the Journal of Social History. Lastly, the last thing I analyzed is how we spend our free time in both countries for my age group or my generation. Molly's favorite thing to do in her free time is shopping, hanging out with friends, and eating. The most popular thing for young adults to do in England is to go clubbing. They can do this because their legal drinking age there is 18. You can even order drinks at restaurants at the age of 16 with parental permission. Clubbing involves going to bars with drinking and dancing. In the United States, the legal drinking age is 21, so we can't necessarily participate in such activities yet. Ultimately, the similarities and differences in culture between the United States and England allows our countries to connect on a deeper level. The differences are what makes both countries unique, though. By looking at both countries' language, customs, and recreational activities, I was able to learn a lot about each culture. Through this presentation, I got to get to know Molly a whole lot better. I would love to go home with her one day, and I hope she invites me over one summer so I can get to know English culture even better and experience it firsthand. Every person should make an effort to broaden their horizons by exploring the other cultures of this world. Thanks.